Welcome everybody to today's live stream. We're pretty excited about this one. I think we've got some really great content planned. I think this is a feature that we're really excited about. So we're looking forward to showing it off a little bit. Yeah, today's webinar, saving time and improve model performance with data discovery. We're joined today by Anmol Singh, who's our head of sales engineering, and Alec Harris, who's our senior project manager here at Human Signal. And so they'll be running today's webinar. I'm Nate Karchner. I am director of marketing here at Human Signal. Just let's see here, a couple of announcements for y'all. We are going to be recording today's live stream. So after the presentations, we'll send that out via email. So if there's something you want to watch over, or you want to share it with somebody, that'll be available to you. The other thing to note is that there will be, I think we'll have some time for a short Q&A session after the presentation. So if you look at the bottom of your Zoom webinar screen, there's like the toolbar. It has a Q&A button there. You can click that and it'll give you a place where you can put your question in, and then we'll answer those as we have time. But with that, I'll go ahead and kick it over to Alec, who will talk to y'all about data discovery. Over to you.
Thanks, Nate. Hey, y'all, I'm Alec. As Nate mentioned, I'm a product manager here. I'm excited to talk to you about something that the team's been working on for a couple of months now, and released last month, 2 months ago. So when we think about our platform in general, we think about it in three main pillars. So we have the discovery pillar, the signal pillar, and the supervise pillar. And generally speaking, we've been most focused on the signal pillar. This is where your core labeling happens. But we think of this flow more holistically. And what we're going to be talking about today is really one of our first forays into this first pillar, where we're kind of expanding the workflow a little bit. So data discovery, aptly named, is this discover pillar. So digging into that a little bit, what is data discovery? Yeah, so we view the process of labeling data more holistically. It's not just about putting a bounding box around a flower. It's not just about clicking, okay, this is positive sentiment. It actually starts earlier with this concept of data discovery. And so data discovery is really the process of organizing, identifying, understanding, contextualizing the data that you may eventually want to label. It helps you understand what the data that you have is, and then figure out how to most effectively find the most important pieces of data to train your powerful, or to make your model really powerful. And right now, when we looked out into the market, when we talk to people, there's a bunch of homegrown ways to do this. So people do this in their notebooks. They have disparate tools. But we know at the end of the day, the next step, and one of the core pieces of this workflow is the labeling. So we wanted to provide users this step right next door to the core part of the process, which is the labeling. So yeah, that's kind of the general intro here. I wanted to dig a little bit deeper into the core user problems. As a product manager, this is a lot of my currency of what I actually care about. And there's a whole plethora of problems here but I've organized them into three general ones that we saw come up most frequently. So there's this concept of data bootstrapping, which is that I'm trying to create a model from scratch. And I have an influx of data, whether it's from another team internally, or I went out and collected data, or I downloaded a data set. But I want to understand what is in my data set. We see this particularly most often when you're at a company and another team is responsible for collecting data. And a team of data scientists, a team of MLEs might receive that data and really not know what else is in it, other than an email or a Slack that says, hey, we kind of dropped a bunch of images in here, or we dropped a bunch of text in here. So data bootstrapping is this concept of like, okay, now that I've gotten my data, how do I actually wrap my arms around it? How do I understand it a little bit more? So then there's the initial curation part, which is again in this kind of most often in this 0 to 1 setting, where it's actually hard to identify of that big dump of data what is going to be most impactful for you to label. If you think about a text data set, there's no guarantee that there's actually like comprehensible text in the data that you receive. If you receive an image data set, there's no guarantee that the images you get are not going to be super pixelated or like low quality, things that maybe your model won't be able to reckon with. So using what data discovery allows you to do, what this kind of step in the process allows you to do, is to again kind of like identify that most impactful data and to get rid of the kind of lower quality pieces of data. And you can like figure out kind of where and how best to sample within that large piece of data. And then the last one, which I find to often be like one of the most tangible ones, is class expansion. So if you have a model that has a bunch of classes and you evaluate it, oftentimes you'll see, okay, one of my classes is really underperforming. And the very clear next step would be, okay, I need to find more data about that class to label and to like kind of find more diverse types of that data. You can imagine like a tweet sentiment model. If you see that your positive tweet class is really underperforming, then you would want to find a whole bunch of positive tweets or things that people would classify as positive sentiment. But you want to start kind of wide and gather a bunch of those examples so that you can then put it into your labeling workflow to then improve the performance of that specific class. So those are the generalized user problems. Then I just wanted to like really quickly dive into a specific example of one of our users. This is one of like my favorite use cases because it was so tangible. A lot of times like we're working in very like abstract, complex spaces, and then sometimes you get a use case that's just so tangible, and you're like, "Ooh, I'm going to put this one in my pocket." So Acme Inc., not their actual name, their users are farmers. So they serve farmers. They tell them how like healthy their crops are. They talk about their crop yield, water saturation, whether there's a bug problem, things like that. So they collect image data from crop fields and then help farmers identify where the problems in their field are. And the thing that they're working on right now is like a very zoomed in build a model per crop type of workflow. And the reason for that is when they did some analysis, they realized the easiest way to identify what a weed is or like not their crop is to identify what the crop is. So if you have a farmer that has an onion field or a carrot field or a cabbage field, then they want a model per vegetable. So yeah, it was funny to talk to users and they're like, yeah, our carrot model is doing well, but our cabbage model is really not doing well. So we're like, okay, let's dig a little bit deeper. So going a little deeper into this example, we looked at their workflow, and the way that they do their workflow, or at least it was then currently, was they would collect thousands of images from these farmers. The number that they threw out was 8,000. And they kind of one by one, boop and bop, like this image I want to label, this image is not worth labeling. And they would go through each of these manually. And it was this kind of like almost this like double labeling process where they would have like their initial labeling of like what is worth labeling. And then they would actually start their labeling workflow. And we heard this and we're like, wow, this is actually really kind of par for the course, exactly the thing that we're solving for. So we've been working with this company for the past couple of months, and we're excited about the kind of process improvements that we're seeing initially. But the idea is they can just throw their 8,000 images into this data discovery part of our platform, and use keyword searches, use natural language, use similarity search to just say, okay, cabbage model is underperforming. Let me find a few cabbage pictures, say find similar, send them to my labeling workflow, or even type in cabbage or spoiled cabbage or healthy cabbage or something like that. You can kind of test all the different things that a like semantic based model might be good at. So yeah, just wanted to give a brief introduction there. Wanted to lay the land of the big user problems and then dip our toes into a specific example. But now I'm going to pass it over to Anmol, who's going to actually dive into the product and show you like what this looks like from a workflow perspective.
Perfect. Thanks, Alec. Let me go ahead and share my screen. And so, as much as we all love cabbages and carrots, I'll take a different lens in my demo. So let's just imagine, right now, insurance is a very big thing in California, where I'm as you can tell. And so, let's just say I'm a big insurance company, right? I focus on, home insurance, health insurance, car insurance, etc. And to Alec's point, maybe I already have models in place that are one per type, right? Home, health, credit card insurance, etc. But let's just say now all the data is living in my AWS, GCP, Azure environment, but I want to be able to now expand my model and be able to do car insurance. And at that point, instead of sifting through a lot of different data, maybe I wanted more of a systematic or semantic way of being able to curate a data set for this particular project. So instead of now going directly into a labels your project, start annotating, what I can now do is jump into a data set. And a data set maps to your kind of set of data in your cloud environment. So I can go ahead and now create a data set, whether it's once again to GCS, S3 Azure, give some credentials, and I'll be able to start integrating with that. And so, for the sake of this demo, I already created a connection to a data set in AWS. That's around 100,000 images. And what we're able to do now is, let me actually jump into grid view as it's a little bit easier. Given, once again, I have a variety of different data in this AWS instance, right? I can start seeing that here. But once again, my objective is to bring in maybe these different underwriters that can annotate car insurance pictures. So I could train my model instead of having sifting through all the different images, or as Alec alluded to in his use case, 8,000 to double kind of annotate. I can just start typing car or vehicle, whatever it may be. What Label Studio now is doing is it's basically generating similarity scores based on the keyword with all these other kind of images here. And I can actually see that right here. And this allows me to start understanding what are the most similar images, right? Small the number, the better, to the keyword in choice. I can start filtering it based off of my requirement, whether I want to do, reinforcement training, maybe or something opposite, and have this reflect, in this case, there's not much here. So let me actually expand this to be a little bit more comprehensive. And find kind of the threshold that is applicable for my individual project. And naturally, when I find maybe a data set instead of thousands, maybe I have, in this case, 1,600, I can go ahead and transfer it to either an existing project or a brand new project that my annotators, whether they're underwriters or someone else, to start labeling these images. Similarly, maybe there's a hypothesis from the business saying that, hey, red cars are more likely to cause, issues. So we maybe want to focus on red cars. I can, to Alec's point, type in red car. Or the other thing is, if I have a good example that I want the data discovery solution to work off of, I could just click on this image, this red car image, and find similar. And what we're basically doing now is we're trying to find what are all the images that are as similar to this as possible. And now I have more of a curated view to say, great, these are all the images, right, that I would want to start annotating, whether it's red card or not, but at least I have now a stronger baseline to go off of. So, and then naturally your annotation workflow begins. You do all that kind of annotation quality checks downstream, but kind of this is the idea of whether it's initial curation of data sets, exploration of data sets, or even kind of expansion, which Alec is alluding to, of how do we take a bunch of data that maybe live in the cloud, find a subset that is relevant to my task, and how my answers be more focused and focus more on quality. That's it from my demo perspective.
All right, perfect. Well, thank you very much for that. So yeah, that brings us to the Q&A session of the live stream. So we've got a couple of questions in here that we can go through, and then yeah, we'll go from there. But just a reminder there, if you do have questions or there's something that you want to dig into a little bit deeper, there's the Q&A widget at the bottom of your screen in the menu. So feel free to drop stuff in there. So the first question that I have in here is, can I use this to manage data that I don't intend to label?
Yeah, so this is a tool that we're providing to users, and however you find it useful is great to us. We do see this as part of a larger workflow, but for sure, like we hear a lot of the need is like, especially in that example where you don't like you're a data scientist or machine learning engineer and you don't like own your data, it kind of comes from an upstream team. It's really helpful to be like, if somebody's like, hey, can we build a model from this? Like you need to start somewhere. You need to wrap your arms around what this thing actually is. And that's a super reasonable, super great way to use data discovery is just wrap your arms around your data, wrap your arms around the data, like figure out what is actually in this data set. What did that upstream team give to us? And is it workable from a bird's eye view? So the answer is definitely yes to that.
Fantastic. Here's another question. Somebody wants to know what data types are supported by data discovery.
Yeah, so right now it is image and text, but we're always looking to hear more from our users. So if we hear, a large outcry about, other data types, we'll definitely look into to building that out.
All right, perfect. Let's see. Yeah, somebody wants to know what foundation model are we using behind data discovery?
Yeah, so this is using the CLIP model, and similar to my last comment, which is that like that's another place where we have our eyes on in terms of improving. Like there are probably other models that may perform better for different industries or different use cases. So if like we see a lot of good usage of the CLIP model, or like it's effective in a lot of these use cases. But if we hear from our users that there are other kind of models or people want to bring their own, like that's always something that we're willing to pull into the product discussions. One thing that I want to note that's like not a question that's been asked, but is just interesting to me, so I'll share it. Anmol showed there's kind of like two ways of kind of getting at this search. There's using natural language, and there's the find similar. And I view both of those as like different entry points to a very similar piece of functionality. Just the one thing I wanted to mention is like a way that I've seen them used differently. So like a good example of find similar, we see some of our autonomous vehicle clients. The data that they get looks very similar because it's like you have a car and it's pointing out towards the road, and it's like super boring to the outside person's perspective. It all looks like just a road. But if you're trying to find like, given a road, where do we see like garbage cans? It like can be very subtle from a like natural language search perspective, right? If you type in garbage can, it might not, like the CLIP model might not understand that that is a garbage can, but the find similar is actually quite powerful there because it helps you say, this is the one that I want to find the closest neighbors to. I just wanted to kind of like draw out that distinction because I've seen it used differently, and yeah, just wanted to provide that context.
Nice, awesome, thank you. So we've got a question in the chat. So Mary Catherine Sullivan wants to know, can you import already labeled data to data discovery to manually add additional training data of a specific class? So cases where not all classes are performing equally, but you want to explore where the model is failing before adding to the labeling space?
Yeah, so the answer is not right now. But that is something that we've heard from users, and we've actually started exploring what that looks like in the product. And we were kind of thinking of it more holistically as like some people bring in data and they want to bring in like metadata associated with it. So this would kind of be considered under that large bucket. But at the moment, we don't allow that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Let's see here, and let me dig through here. Yeah, I think that might be it for the questions that have come in. So yeah, last call for any other questions. Appreciate the ones that have been asked already. All right. Well, in that case, just want to thank Alec and Anmol for sharing this with us. Really appreciate the time. I'd like to thank all of y'all for joining. Just a reminder, this was recorded, so we'll definitely send the recording out to everybody. And if you're interested in data discovery at your organization and you're already a Label Studio Enterprise customer, you can reach out to your customer service, your customer success representative, and it's available for free in your platform. We just got to enable it. If you're not already a Label Studio Enterprise customer, just go to humansignal.com, request a demo, say that you're interested in data discovery, and we can see about getting you on data discovery as well. But again, thanks everybody for attending, and have a great day.
Thanks, everyone. Cheers.
Thanks, everyone.